who is a doctor of chiropractic. He works at the Source here in Denver. But when we first met, we had some really cool, fun conversations outside of your typical nutrition and chiropractic conversation. And so I think we'll probably hit on that a little bit today. But first, thanks for being here. Super excited that you're here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Cool.
He's got a great brain, and I love people with really big brains. It's really fun for me. So, as always, we start the show with gratitude. Why? Gratitude can change the world. Literally, it's energetic. It can change your life. It can change your outlook. It can change all of the things in a positive way. Just concentrating on the things that you have in this life that are just big and beautiful, whether it's your dogs, whether it's your kids, whether it's the fact that you have a toothbrush to brush your teeth every day. Whatever it is, there are lots of things to be grateful for. So, what are you grateful for?
That's a great question. So I start the day with gratitude. It's the last thing I do in the shower when I'm getting done. I'm grateful that I get to wake up today to give and to love and to serve out of abundance. With no expectation of anything in return. And to my heart, I'm extremely grateful that my family has their needs met.
Yeah, amazing.
Yep.
Very good. I am, I'm going to be super simple. I'm grateful that it's warm outside.
Yep. It was a long winter.
Long, cold, more snowy than usual.
Yeah.
So it was a bit long. A girl coming from Texas, I still have Texas in me. I like the warm weather. So I'm glad that we're getting, although it's supposed to drop again tomorrow and snow.
Yeah. I have a lot of running to do this weekend, so I'm excited about that.
Well, I think it's still supposed to be a pretty nice weekend, but see? Always messing up the techie stuff.
There we
go. All right.
Perfect.
So let's jump in and have some fun. Let's first, get a little background. I like to, hear the stories. I think stories are relatable. People like to know where you come from, why you are what you are, and why you do what you do, and what motivates you and what excites you. You've got a lot that you have been doing over the last few years, both with chiropractic as well as outside of that. So let's just kind of start there.
Yep. So I'm a humble Midwesterner from Kansas. So I've been in Colorado for just a little over a year, starting at the Source Chiropractic.
Short.
Yep. So I love it here. The weather's amazing, even though winter was a little rough. It's nothing compared to the sleet and the ice and the freezing rain of the Midwest. So
the wind.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I'm actually pretty blessed with where I'm at and the weather that we've been experiencing over the last year. But for me personally, I pretty typical Midwestern lifestyle. Grew up, my mom and my dad. I have two older sisters. Always grew up with pets, so we had lots of energy in our household. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I grew up a lot, really blue collar. Everyone in my family's blue collar, which that for some reason didn't resonate with me. And so I had to figure out what that looked like. And so I was actually the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree. And so once I had that, I have a bachelor's degree in business and marketing. So
that was smart.
Yeah, well, it was pretty much just falling backwards into it. There wasn't a whole lot of planning that went into it. I just assumed that everything revolves around business, and so I needed that foundation. But little did I know that the school wasn't going to set me up for success. And that's kind of the issue that I see a lot with higher education is they're giving you this like abundance of knowledge or abundance of education, but maybe not the knowledge background to actually figure out how to use it. And so I was taking accounting classes and economics classes and all these things, and it was useful now, but when I got out of college, I didn't know what to do with it. And so I worked in a cubicle for a couple of years, kind of wasting away. I grew up playing sports my whole life. I played college soccer, and so I was always moving, and then all of a sudden I go from being very active all the time, 98% of my day, to now sitting in a cubicle surrounded by people that also didn't really enjoy what they were doing, but they didn't know how to get out of it.
It kind of brings you down, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Ooh,
and
talk
so
about bad energy.
Yeah, so I use the analogy of I was a racehorse in a stable. So I was used to running and gunning, and all of a sudden I was stuck in a stable, viewing the world outside these windows that we had in our office, but not able to do anything about it in that moment. So fortunately for me, I had this really brilliant friend of mine that I was living with. He played soccer with me in Iowa. We came down to Kansas City, and he went to chiropractic school. And then I just came home one day and was like, I need something, so tell me about chiropractic.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it. So we talked for like 5 hours straight. He's like, wow, you seem really, really interested in this. You might explore it. And then I just didn't put another thought into it, applied. I was tentatively accepted, got into chiropractic school, and to be transparent, failed pretty hard to start with. I have a business background, never once stepped into science vernacular at all, and didn't know what I got myself into. So a typical 4-year program took me 5 because the first year was rough. Like I remember calling my mom and saying, I'm just terrible at this. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I got myself into. And she just told me the words that will stick with me forever is that if it's easy, everybody would do it.
It's so true. You know, it's interesting, not to interrupt, but I think it's so interesting that so many people who go into the science world, that's just who they were growing up. That's who I've been growing up. It's just what I loved and what I gravitated to. And interesting that was not. You were just, of course, you're the sports guy. You're sort of on the outside, you know, in. But
Yeah. So I mean, I stepped into 600 level biology courses, kinesiology courses, where I was surrounded by 99% of the student population are science nerds, right? And then I had to become that science nerd, and so I was going through the classes and couldn't really pick it up because it was just moving so fast. They just assumed that I already knew all the background foundational information to pick up this advanced stuff, and I wasn't able to do that. And so I had to lead the class. Like in between classes, I would study and watching YouTube videos and going to the library, spending all my time trying to learn the basics so that then I could apply it to this big stuff that I was learning. So it was a lot. It was a lot, and I stick by that adage of if it was easy, everybody would do it, because that's why I like doing hard things now. I have to push myself. I have to see what I'm capable of, not only for myself, but I have 3 kids. And so I want my son, who's 5, who watches everything that I do, I want him to see that I'm willing to do hard things, because there's always something at the end of that. And life is not the destination, it's the journey. And so my journey is, putting myself into relatively uncomfortable situations. Like, I've never been on a radio station before, but, you're doing it, and you just like kind of have to accept it and move through it. But I always learn something more about myself after I do those things, and then there's always some payoff. I get an increased level in confidence or certainty, or I just feel happier after doing it. Like, I do cold plunges every morning, and that is not comfortable first thing in the morning.
Like in the bath or what?
I bought a portable ice bath for my back porch, and depending upon what the external temperature is, that'll kind of determine what it is on the in the water. But I can totally submerge myself in the water, and it's not comfortable. It's the last thing I want to do when I'm getting out from being warm in my sheets to then jumping in an ice bath. That's not comfortable. But then I get out and I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did that.
Wow.
Because you just notice the neurologic shift.
That's
things like that.
That's amazing. I can't imagine doing it every day. I try to do it in my shower. And I'm like, I just need to suck it up and do it, because I know it's good. But you gotta suck it up and just stop being a puss.
And I'm blessed. My wife is. She has to live with me, and so she gets to see this kind of crazy stuff that I'm willing to do, and so she's starting to experiment with it too, and she's starting to notice a big benefit, and that's kind of how it happens. Is you just have to expose yourself to it, have faith that whatever you're going to get out of it is probably going to be something that you're going to need anyways, and that it's just an opportunity for us to learn and grow and evolve and expand as who we are.
Well, and it's true, and that's something that we talk about on the show a lot, because if we don't have struggles, if we don't have, jump into the uncomfortable, right, we don't grow. And like you said, life is the journey. We have to use every situation And usually it's the uncomfortable, terrible, sucky, shitty situations that are like, okay, now I'm this person because of it, and I'm better for it.
Totally, totally, yep. Yeah. So after I got out of chiropractic school, I felt like I could do anything, because once I got past like the basic sciences part, which is like the first 2 years, then I'm going through board exams, and I made it to clinicals, and I start to succeed because that becomes that athlete comes back out of me, where I can apply all of those physical, mental tools to my craft that I'm learning, and then I just start to thrive. That by the time I'm out, I had battled some depression while I was in that corporate world, that then it carried into chiropractic school, which made my situation even worse. Yeah. But then once I got out, I was like, okay, all right, we've reached a new level of being at this point, so now let's just see where we go. So I started my practice in Kansas City, a chiropractic office, in March 1st of 2020. Woo. So like the absolute worst possible time to start a business, and I felt every bit of it. I slugged it out for 2 years. Met some amazing people, people that trusted me with their care, as a freshie coming out of chiropractic school. And so I'm extremely grateful for all those people that allowed and gave me the freedom and the space to just like help them get through what they needed to get through. Yeah. But then I recognized that I needed to change. And I looked forward 5 years into the future and was like, well, I don't really like what I'm building, because it just wasn't what the vision I had for myself in a chiropractic office. And so then, Dr. Darren Murphy is the owner of chiropractic at the Source Chiropractic. And, he and I had trained together in chiropractic school. Okay. And I just went in to shadow his office one day, and I just had this like feeling in my gut. My intuition said, follow it. Yeah. And then I had to figure out how to get there. Yeah. So that's always the thing, right? I still had to slug it out for another year in Kansas City and do the best I could, knowing that I was leaving, which was really challenging. Yeah. But once I got here, then it was okay. Be okay doing all the uncomfortable things, because you keep growing and you keep getting a little bit better every single day, and that's how I'm here today.
So I want to back up for a minute, because I have a question for you, if you don't mind talking about it a little bit. You said you battled with some depression while you were in corporate America and then through school. We are in a place as a society where there's so much depression, so much anxiety, and there are many factors that go along with I guess it's the underlying factors that go along with it, and the whys, and then all the social connection or lack thereof, and all of these things. Yep. So I'm curious if that was your battle, if you think it was specifically because you weren't doing what you were meant to do, or I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think I want to speak to people who are dealing with this. When you get out of it without the drugs, without the medications, what is it that you did to kind of pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, great question. And I do think this is some of the people that I speak to at the office is just become a magnet for me, is these people that are at a lower vibrational state, but their aim is to be living a more fulfilled life. And so for me, my story is a little bit different, because I dealt with my parents got divorced at an early age. I was kind of stuck in limbo a little bit, didn't really know what I was going to do, drank a little bit too much in high school, then the same thing in college, and then when I was in college, my mom had a bad accident, really bad, like traumatic, which I don't really need to get into, but it messed me up. And I was living with her at the time in Kansas City, and then I moved to Sioux City, Iowa to go to college, and something happened to her while I was gone. Oh. And so I took that personally. Yeah. I carried that on my heart, like it was just a gash was open, and I had no skills to start to put that back together. Yeah. And so that's where in college it just kind of more gasoline was put on the fire, and it just kept burning and burning and burning and burning. And then I got out of college, continued with the corporate life, kept burning and burning. I was hanging around great people, because the guy I was telling you about that I lived with that was in chiropractic school, he would bring all of his chiropractic friends over. He was adjusting me, and he didn't know this at the time, but he saved me for who I was at that point. Yeah. And he'll call me a big baby when I talk about that. But like I was going through such like a rough patch that I needed a light switch moment, and that's something that I aim for with my people now, because I know that's possible, because I've seen it personally. And having that experience of just slowly starting to pull myself out. I use these visuals like digging a hole. I dug a pretty big hole for myself, financially, personally, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Dug a pretty big hole because I just like blocked it all out. That as I started to dig and started to pull myself out, I started to recognize what I'm capable of. And so that's why I like doing those hard things, because I made it through that. I can most assuredly make it through this. And so, without the medication, I never even spoke to anybody about it. I didn't even tell my family about it. They just like noticed that I wasn't quite the same like bubbly personality. That was the life of the room, and like super living in joy. That's the way I was as a kid. And then this thing happened, and it just like dimmed the light. And so I read everything I possibly could, listened to as many podcasts as I possibly could about people that had gone through a similar experience that I had. And they had a multitude of ways of pulling themselves out. It wasn't just like a one-size-fits-all, yes, you have to use chiropractic, yes, you have to use nutrition, yes, you have to use mindset training, yes, you have to use whatever it is. And what I noticed was all I have to do is figure out what I want to be and who I'm supposed to be, and figure out why. And then once I found those things and I answered those questions, I kept getting these like universal drop-ins that, the chiropractic thing is probably what you need. This thing, the cold plunging is probably what you need. I'm doing a 100-mile race in September. And if you ask me today if I can run 100 miles, no. But I have 6 months to do it. And I know that that's what I need, because I need consistency. I grew up with, going basis, and so that's part of my message now with people is your input matches your output. So if you visualize what your output, what you want to be doing in your life, whether that's you want to be in a specific career, you want to do an athletic endeavor, you want to be in this certain relationship, you want to be this particular person, that's your output. That's the vision, that's the goal, that's the aspiration. But then what is the input that's needed to match that output? And the bigger the output, the bigger the input. And you have to own that. You have to be willing to go there and trust the process and have faith in what you're capable of, so that you can show the fuck up and do the hard things that it's going to take to do that thing. So.
I love that. And I love, I think so often it can be hard to, when you're stuck in that hole, right? It's hard to kind of start to find your way out. And another thing that we talk about a lot is, surrounding yourself with people who are there to help build you. It's why we do this show. It's why I want to introduce people like you to other people. It is surrounding yourself with the people who are there to build you up. And then you do the same, and you build others up. And without your team, whatever that looks like, it's hard to do things on your own.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm in Denver, because I had a solo chiropractic office. No front desk staff, nobody. So I mean, I was grinding. I had to bring all the energy to the space. I had everything, and that wasn't fun for me, because I had lost. There's a saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I was done going fast. Because fast meant that I made mistakes. I wasn't showing up the way that I needed to, because I was just living fast and loose. And that if I wanted to mature into the person that I needed to be, I needed to surround myself with people that were in a team mentality. Like at the Source Chiropractic, we're pushing. We're gonna have 5 chiropractors. We have 2 front desk staff. We have a lot of energy coming in, and so we have to work together. We have to communicate. We have to do things for each other, do things with each other. We have to be okay doing the hard things, doing the screenings on a Saturday when you'd rather just sit at home. But I mean, that's business, And so I'm very particular about who I spend my time with, what I spend my time doing, and why I'm doing it. And it's because I've been there. I've been to the place where nobody wants to go, that nobody would ever dream of being. It's fucking hard to get yourself out.
Yeah.
So as I've gotten myself out, I'm like, okay, well, I see who's in it with me. I see who my squad is. I see who the people are that I can count on, that are accountable not only for themselves, but they can also be accountable for me, and they can show up for me. And I think it's important to surround yourself with team. And we don't have any family here in Denver, but for me personally, I needed to show myself what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And that meant do it alone. Like, you got to be on your own. Figure out who it's going to take, what it's going to take, and number one, why is it so important to you?
Yep, agreed. All right, so in practice, who is it that you like to work with? And then the question, I think, behind that is, what are you seeing? What are you seeing as far as, and this is, so I'm just going to say it, as far as the declining health, declining health care, what are you seeing in practice?
So first question, who I love seeing. So my ideal clientele, I don't use the word patient because that means a person who suffers, and I don't like to use that word. So we try not to use that word. So
cool.
Practice members or clients or something.
Yeah.
But my person that I love having in the office is a young family like myself. Like, we have 3 young kids under the age of 5, and so I love, those people are in the fire.
Yeah.
When you have young children, you are in the fire, and I want to support those people. Athletes, I told you I'm doing this 100-mile race. I love working with athletes. I'm starting to learn how to become a better athlete myself. I played college soccer, but I had no freaking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, literally no clue. And so now that I'm learning more, I'm like, oh, dang, I'm better now than I was back then. I love working with kind of people that we were talking about before, people that just need a spark, need that light bulb moment, because they're the people that if they, like, my goal is that I give them hope if they give me faith. I need them to have faith in what we're talking about, trust what I'm saying, and I will continue to show up for them so that I can bring them hope. And I started to attract all of those different subsets. But the other question is really important because there's 2 different sides to healthcare. There's natural and unnatural. And so one thing that I've noticed a lot is that the people that come in and, we score people, we take them through a full intake process where we score it all out, subjectively, objectively, and we score it all out 0 to 100. The higher the number, the better. So if somebody scores in like the 80 to 100 range, they just need a little bit of optimization. But if somebody's coming in and they're like 75, 70, 65, they've let things go. And that's not disrespectful in the sense that, like, they haven't been doing the right things, but maybe they haven't been exposed or been given the right information to help them get to where they want to be. And so those people are usually the ones that have been trapped in medicine. They're dealing with low back pain due to some type of stressor that led to dysfunction that then caused pain.
Well, and just to interrupt real quick, that's what we tend to see is you have this whatever it is, but then you've got the spiral, and things tend to spiral, and if we don't know how to address it immediately, then that's what we see. In most cases, you're not going to start to heal and repair on your own. Things are going to spiral. And so, like you said, it's exposure, which is partly why we do this, but exposure and getting the word out about how important biomechanics is, because we talk about the brain, we talk about the gut, we talk about all these things, but it all has to work together. Everything has to work together. So anyway.
Totally. And that's a great point. And a lot of what, like, life is built on momentum, whether it's forward momentum or backward momentum. And so I view health from a momentum standpoint. Is natural allows you to build forward momentum. Unnatural leads you away from that and takes you in a negative momentum. And so what I mean by that is, if somebody comes into us and they're a 25-something-year-old and they've done a lot of physical labor, maybe they work out and they lift heavy, or they're in a physically demanding job, or they sit too much and they have back pain, and they come to us immediately, they're opening themselves up to a completely new world. And why is because they're automatically starting at this point coming in, and we're taking him directly into forward momentum. Because we're not just doing chiropractic, we're talking about healthy movement strategies. We're talking about, like, if they need nutritional advice, we'll give some really basic stuff. Like, we try not to overcomplicate things, because I think that's what happens in healthcare now, is that we've completely diluted, and this is something that we were talking about earlier, but we've completely diluted the human experience down to, yeah, you're feeling this thing, you need this thing, or we have to take you through, you know, this whole medical process of seeing, you know, a renal specialist, seeing a liver specialist, seeing a heart specialist, seeing this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing. Yeah.
We compartmentalize when it doesn't make sense to compartmentalize.
No, no, we're fragmenting the human experience.
Right.
And so, you know, for us, we take a 20,000-foot view. We say, okay, number one, if you're that 25-year-old something, you're going to pick up the information that we're giving you easier because you haven't been stuck in the mud for that long. Versus the opposite end of that is like the 45 to 50-year-old person that they were that 25-year-old that had some mild low back pain, but then you add 20 years of negative momentum into that. And now, depending upon where they go from here is going to determine if they can get things back on track or they're only adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
And so if they meet us, maybe they come in and they're, you know, 45, 50 years old and they've been dealing with some type of chronic low back pain, they've been popping ibuprofen or Tylenol or Excedrin for headaches or something like that, but they're noticing that they keep having to take it, then they're only making the situation worse.
Yeah.
Because the body, pain, we use the acronym of pay attention inside now. So pain is there as a signal to tell you it's time to do something about this.
Yep.
But if we continue to shut that message off because it's annoying or it's, you know, we don't have time for it, we have this big deadline, we can't think about the fact that we have low back pain, we just suppress the message and keep making it worse.
Right.
Because when you don't feel it, you won't heal it. And so as they start the process of opening their system up and waking up to, you know, maybe some of the dysfunction that they've been living with for a while, then they have all these multitude of questions that also come up. Is, okay, what is the relationships around me look like? What do, how is my patience level with my kids? How is my nutrition? What are the thoughts that are going through my head? And as you start to fine tune that, because that's all questions that I've had for myself, and I'm sure you went through that process when, in your younger days of like,
still do,
like still like, am I doing the things that I need to do to show up to be the person that I need to be? And as you answer those questions, and you're still willing to show up for yourself, you just start to get better. You start to get healthier. And so that's why I say, have faith in us, have faith in our process, and we'll give you hope so that you can keep showing up, you can keep doing the hard things, you know, even though it might be challenging to come into the office sometimes because, you know, it's a love-hate relationship with the chiropractor. We have to find the stuck stuff. We have to find the stuff that's painful. We have to find the stuff that you're not willing to let go of, and we got to move it. And so once we move it, then you'll have like another fork in the road. Okay, do I keep moving it and I actually heal it, or do I'm not able to let go of that yet, or I'm not willing to release it, or relinquish this ability to control that little bit of my life, and it continues to store in your nervous system. So if they make the choice to heal through it, and they're like, damn, this I thought my neck was just hurting because it was poor sleep that I was having, but it was really because I've been allowing this like dysfunctional, painful relationship into my life. And because I was steering myself so far away from the person that I want to be, now it keeps coming back.
It's so true, and it goes back to, you know, how everything is so connected. The mental, the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, the financial, the relational, everything is connected and can express as more mental and emotional. It can express as physical pain. It can, you know, all of these things. So making sure that you're, you know, taking that step back and like you said, taking, you know, that view on your own life, because it may not be that it's just a pain in your neck. Right. There could be something is creating that pain in your neck. I want to also, I think this is really important to say, because we live in a world where ibuprofen is candy, and you hit on this a few minutes ago, but we're also now living in a world where fertility rates are through the floor for both men and women. So testosterone levels are dropping, sperm counts are dropping, motility is in the tank. Ibuprofen can decrease sperm count, like, I can't remember the number now, but significantly. It's so interesting that we're sitting in a place where we have so many factors that can interfere. You know, it's the endocrine disruptors, right? It's the toxicities, it's the emotional, you know, dysfunction, all of these things. And then on top of it, popping ibuprofen like it's candy. So I feel the need to hit on that. You know, I'm working on, launching Soulful, or I have launched Soulful Conception, and so these little tidbits come up when I'm talking to people about their why they might be struggling with their fertility. This is huge. And it manifests in many different ways.
And we get a ton of infertility in our office, a ton. And the part of the nervous system that controls your sexual organs is your lower back. And if we're sitting all day, if we're not moving our bodies, if we're not breathing effectively and with our diaphragm, and
your shoulders, that's how I breathe.
We're stuck. You're better than you think. But if we're stuck in a sympathetic dominant state, our bodies don't have the capacity to rear children. That's just the way it is. We have more stress present in our external environments than we've ever had before, and that's leading to more stress internally than we've ever had before, because the external world is our mirror, and if we're not paying attention, we're walking around super stressed out, we're not getting enough sleep, we're irritable, we're impatient, we're probably living in pain, and like you mentioned, we're popping some type of pill, and God knows what those chemicals do to our body. We're starting to figure that out. But our conversation is, let's start with getting your spine healthy. Let's start with reconnecting your brain back to the tissues that cause fertility and infertility if it's not expressing the way that it's supposed to. But it goes back to what we were just talking about, is as you start to wake the system up, not only does that give you a greater capacity to rear children or get pregnant, but it also allows you to figure out for yourself whether that's something that you're ready for, and how do you support that. So we support it through movement. We support it through healthy nutrition choices, which I'm sure you talk about ad nauseum to people all day, every day. is literally just stop putting trash in your body, and input matches your output. If you want to have children, you have to create the right input that allows you to the space and capacity to actually have children, because it's an amazing, beautiful, natural process. But if we're not doing what we need to do on a daily basis to show up the way that we need to become that parent, to become the partner that we need to be, maybe we're not ready to have kids in the first place, and there might be a reason spiritually why that hasn't quite happened yet.
Well, and I totally agree, and this is maybe a good place to do a little plug on Soulful Conception. But if your body's going to tell you, and there's a reason for it, and that's the thing to really pay attention to is, things don't happen just because. Right? Things happen because there's something deeper, and that's the goal of my job. It's the goal of your job, is to dig as deep as you can to understand what the root cause is. And there are likely multiple root causes. But really digging in to understand what the root cause is, what has the body moving away from what your goal might be, but it's like, I can't take it. I can't handle it. I don't have the time for it. And everything that's in our environment, everything that's from our thoughts to where we live, to what's in the home, to what we use to clean our home, to what we put on our body, to having accidents and our biomechanics being completely a mess, or having just being birthed, right? Being birthed, and babies, they can have their biomechanics completely a mess, for lack of a better word, just through coming through the birth canal and the way that they're pulled. And so much of this is just, it's amazing, and can affect us for an entire life.
And why we do what we do, why we adjust the spine, is because it's the easiest way of accessing your nervous system. So your nervous system is your brain connected to your spinal cord, and then there's spinal nerves that come out from there that controls all the tissues in your body, your organs, your muscles, your cells, literally everything under your cap. And I think of all these different systems as programs. in our nervous system as the electrical hardware. It's the computer system, and your digestion, your cardiovascular system, your your sexual organs, your reproductive system, musculoskeletal system. Those are all programs, and we have to support the programs.
Yeah.
If it's not, if we're, the inability to have a child is no different, in my opinion, than somebody that doesn't feel like they can run a 5K. Because it's a program. One of them is dealing with your musculoskeletal system, one of them is dealing with your reproductive system.
Yeah.
If you can't run a 5K, you got to find a way to support that. You have to get movement in. You have to properly get the nutrition in. You have to run. Like if reproductive system is there's some chemical things that go on in there, but we have to find ways to support that. And I don't think that the ways that we support that is through unnatural causes, unnatural remedies, I should say. And so, I've dealt with, I've experienced patients or clients in our office that have used herbs, that have used supplements, that have used things, but the more natural they get, the more nature-based remedies they use, the higher likelihood they have of changing that infertility stamp that somebody put on your head into fertility, and then you just live your life from there.
Yeah, and so much of it too, we live in this place where it's I've got to have this happen, I've got to have it right now, which then changes, like you said, the nervous system into that sympathetic, into that fight or flight, into the body. All of the blood moves away from the core, so you're not supporting digestion, you're certainly not supporting your sexual organs and the ability then to support a pregnancy if all of your blood is at your extremities because it feels like you're trying to run.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah.
So it's a infertility or struggling with fertility is just not just. I don't mean it that way, but it's a symptom.
Yeah.
It's a symptom.
Totally.
And so much of what we deal with in our world are symptoms or clusters of symptoms. Diseases are clusters of symptoms, and it's the body talking to us.
Yeah.
Right. And we got to take that step back and say, the body's it's knocking on the door, going, hey, I need you to tell me. I need you to help to support me. I can't do this on my own anymore, because it tries. It just keeps working for us and keeps working for us until 100%. It just can't,
Well, and I think one of the things that women experience, particularly in this infertility process, is somebody rubber stamps you as hashtag infertility, infertile, and that puts you in a box. And now you've already started this sympathetic storm. Now we're just same thing, adding fuel to the fire. And so there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of
such a shame.
There's and they put people on these unnatural remedies to help them become more fertile. But when it doesn't work, what do? We shame the mother as there's something else. Maybe you were just born with the inability to rear children. That's bullshit, in my opinion. That's just passing the buck from the provider onto the person.
Well, and we see that a lot. I think that can happen a lot.
Totally. And so, I think for us, what we're selling is not healthcare. It's not chiropractic. It's hope. It doesn't matter what you walk in the door with. You can come in with chronic headaches for the last 20 years and get one adjustment, get a good night's sleep, and you never have headaches again. We've had cases like that. We've had women that have had miscarriages in the past, women that have been unable to have children that come into our office, and within 6 months of care, they're having children. We're having like a baby explosion in our office right now. Where we just have babies coming left and right. But it's not us doing it. We're just providing. We're just facilitating a healing process. We're removing interference from the nervous system, allowing the body to do what it does naturally. And it's the woman, it's that person that's healing whatever it is that they walked in the door with. It's their physical body healing that, as long as they provide it with the right stimuli, and we can celebrate that. We have a healing bell in our office. That if people have like an amazing response, like no headaches, or we just had a baby, or whatever it is, we hand them the bell and they can ring the shit out of the bell. That's exciting for us. Like, we'll beat on the tables and we'll get really excited for them because we celebrate wins. We don't diagnose anything in our office. We don't attach labels because that just suppresses people's life experience and their own exponential potential that rests within them. All we do is we provide chiropractic care, and then their body shows up for them exactly the way that it's supposed to, and we celebrate the wins and we keep moving.
Yeah, I love that. So good. So let's talk a little bit more about I think healthcare as a whole, and I want to hit on this a bit because of the conversation that we had in your office, and where this conversation could go in time as far as what we're seeing. You know, we're a sick country, we're a sick nation. We are, in my opinion, duped a lot of the times.
Yep.
By what has, you know, historically been called science, and I don't know, you know, I kind of got away from using the word science because, you know, I like evidence-based a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah, and so, you know, we're in a place where it's confusion, it's frustration, what's right, what's wrong. How do we know what's right and what's wrong? How do we know who to listen to? Because I think that those that we've been listening to in large part over the last couple of years, how do I say this politely and lightly? We have gone down a really bad road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not trusting nature. We're not trusting nature anymore.
Right.
I'll use blood pressure as an example. It's very common that people are on blood pressure medication now.
Yep.
It's not normal, it's common. And so understanding like the mechanism of what blood pressure medication's purpose is and how it works, I think can help people understand why that might not be the appropriate route to take. And so like you're not born with high blood pressure. You know, there's some maybe external, maybe potentially internal cause of why you're experiencing high blood pressure. But depending on who you go to, you're going to have a completely drastic different healing response to that. And so if you go the normal traditional medical route, you know, they take your biomarkers, your diagnostics, and they say, well, yeah, you have high blood pressure. Well, number one, they keep raising the standards of high blood pressure in this country because people are eating so terribly that and living a sedentary lifestyle that it makes them more susceptible to having hypertension or high blood pressure. And if somebody were to say, okay, you have high blood pressure, that's becoming normal. No, it's not. It's becoming more common. It's becoming more common. This is all you have to take. We've had great results with people that take this thing for high blood pressure. And you're like, oh, thank God. So you're relinquishing your personal sovereignty onto this pill, this medical provider to fix you. That's the first issue. Number two would be, well, that blood pressure medication is not healing why you have high blood pressure in the first place. It's only lowering your biomarkers so that when they test you again, you're like, yeah, of course, look, your blood pressure's lower.
You're all better now.
Yeah, but that's not how the human body works.
Yeah.
You know, and so the why behind your high blood pressure is not because you're missing the synthetic chemicals from a pharmaceutical drug. The reason that you have high blood pressure is because you're not eating well, you're not exercising, maybe you're living in that sympathetic dominant state, and so your resting heart rate is much higher than it should be, and then you get tested and they're like, yeah, you have high blood pressure. But if you were to take into account...
Which, by the way, is super dynamic.
Yeah.
The body is so dynamic. It can go up, it can go down. It's the same with cholesterol. It's all over the place anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so what people notice is, you know, they start off with just having high blood pressure, but maybe when they go this medical route, it dovetails into all these other diagnoses down the road. Because when you're not healing why that is there in the first place, it's just going to pick up momentum. Yep. It's the same thing we were just talking
about.
Yeah. It's, you know, and so you're picking up all this negative momentum because you're no longer experiencing high blood pressure from a diagnostic standpoint, but it's still going on inside you. That process is still going on, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, so that you can start with high blood pressure medication at 25, maybe because you just drank a Red Bull and then you went into the doctor's office feeling anxious and you know, all out of sorts, and then by 45, now you've got all these metabolic issues. You know, metabolic disease. So there's 40% of this country has some type of chronic illness, at least one. 80% have at least one. 40% have two or more. And so, you know, going back a couple of years, the people that get sick, and just goes back millennium, the people that get sick are the people that have lower lifestyle reduced lifestyle factors.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not doing the things that they should do to support a healthy lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And why that happens, why they get sick, is because it lowers your immune response.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get a lowered immune response, now you start to notice that you're feeling a little groggy, you're not sleeping well, it's picking up momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just feel crappy, you have to miss work one day, and then you go to the doctor and they diagnose you with something, and you're, well, maybe one day it's the C word, maybe another day it's flu, maybe another day it's this thing or this thing or this thing or this thing, and they just keep putting this stuff on it so that they can give you that pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah.
But if you were to take a step back and you're like, well, maybe I feel like shit because my kids haven't been sleeping well, and I've been only getting 3 or 4 hours of good nights of sleep, and maybe I'm feeling extra stress from work, or I'm not eating the right foods. I keep stopping at the local gas station to get a quick pick-me-up or whatever that is, and you're building momentum in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So I think just that very simple concept of, well, what are you exposing your body to? What are you putting in your body? And I think the more we can just remove medicine from our lifestyle, the better off all of humanity will be.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree, and I think that when we start to feel bad and we go to our doctor and they say, okay, well, this is what you have. So for one, kind of going back to you're now labeled.
Yeah.
But for two, you may have it. You may have this cluster of symptoms, but it doesn't tell you why.
Right.
It's not. They're not really. It's a diagnosis, sure. Does it make you feel better? I don't know. Does it? I would think not necessarily, but some people feel relief. Well, at least now I know
that's where the
what's going
placebo
on
effect
with me.
comes in.
Right, right, exactly.
This pill gives you hope. But what's going on is that from a biomechanical standpoint, it's not helping you.
Right.
It's just tricking your brain into thinking that way. This is a simple one, but depression isn't a lack of Prozac, right? Right. Totally.
there's so much more to it, but what we need to start to retrain ourselves to do is, okay, I have this cluster of symptoms, or I have this diagnosis, or I have this disease, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Ask why.
Yeah.
And don't just stop there. You got to keep asking why, and keep asking why, and keep asking why, and find your people who are going to help you dig for the reason why. Understand the root cause, because once you get as deep as you can, and I'm talking microbes and mycotoxins and exposures in the air and electromagnetic frequencies and so many of these things, that mess with our biochemistry, our biomechanics, the amazing, I talk about this a lot, but the amazing amount of endocrine disruptors that we have in our world that totally throw off our hormones, which throw off everything else. Our hormones are communicators, right? They're little communicators in the body, and when they go wonky, everything goes wonky.
Yep.
And so being aware of what, simple as it is, being aware of what's in your environment, what you're putting on your skin, what you're washing your hair with, what you're putting under your arms, what are you washing your clothes, in. So many of these things, they seem so small, but we do them day in and day out, all day long.
Yep.
And there's this constant exposure, and it creates big problems.
Yeah, we're exposed to more toxins than we've ever been exposed to as a human race in the history
non-research
of our species.
Toxins. Yeah.
Right, 100%. We're starting to kind of figure out what impact glyphosate has on our gut, and how that might be related to autism. There's so much out there that I think it's just so important to ask that why. And we want to be there for people, but they also have to want to be there for themselves.
For sure.
In a conversation that we personally have in our office every single day, we have a new person, is if the only thing you change about your life is that you add chiropractic, don't expect miracles. But what happens is when people add chiropractic and they start down this road of natural remedies, then they show up better for their own lives.
It opens up more doors.
Yeah.
And it opens up the understanding that there's more that can be done.
Yeah, we don't realize what pain does to our brain.
Oh man.
Once you get out of pain, it changes everything. It changes how you show up. It changes your energy levels. It changes your sleep. It changes everything.
It changes your personality.
Totally.
So yeah, constant pain, and I don't think we talked about this. My husband broke his leg, and so he was in chronic pain for a couple of years, and changed his personality. He's just like, I'm just not a happy. And he's a happy dude. You know, just not a happy person. And it's amazing when you can move out of that. You know, get back to where you were. But, you know, think about that if you're in chronic pain. You know, how it affects you, but it also affects everybody else around you.
Yeah, so we talk about, I call them the aspiration layers of healing. That's uncoined, so I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it starts off with pain relief, because when people come to our office, they have some type of symptom that they're experiencing. Digestive issues, headaches, low back pain, anxiety, whatever it is. But the first sequence of events is we get them out of pain, or we help their body express itself so that it gets itself out of pain, right? And when that happens, that opens up a new door, like we're talking about, as they become a different person. But then the second step is, now we're talking about improving their function. You talked about biomechanics earlier, but we take a squat video of people on day one.
Nice.
And we're like, okay, we got some work to do, right? Like, you know, this hip's going this way and this hip's going this way, and you know, you're having to lift your heels up off the ground to drop down into a squat, da 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 da. But as we progress them through care and we take them through progress exams, re-exams, we redo the squat, and then we do it again at their end of their care. And so I'm not teaching them how to squat. I'm not teaching them how.
Right.
You know, but their body is relearning the skill of how to squat. So that as they work through this process, they go from pain relief to an improvement in their function, which that function could be sleep, could be their posture, could be squat, could be the way that they walk, anything under the sun. Then after that, after we've improved their function and they've got themselves out of pain, now we talk about improvement in their life expression. So that's how they show up. You know, when you're not dealing with pain and you're more functional, maybe in this beautiful you know, environment of Colorado, they want to go for a hike. But when they're in pain and they don't feel like they can move without being in pain, they're not going to go for a hike.
Sit on the couch.
They're not going to do anything that lights them up and brings excitement and joy and passion and all these things into their lives, because they just don't feel like it. We hear that all the freaking time. Well, you know, my recommendation is you'll go for a walk. I don't feel like it, or I don't know if I can. When was the last time I went for a walk? It's like, well, maybe you should try. Maybe you should try. Maybe you should start using this body that God gave you. Now that we're starting to get it more dialed in, and it's you know, improving its function so much, you start showing up better for yourself. And I think that's life. That's what we have to be shown away. We have to be taken out of this model of giving away all your power, and instead choosing self-empowerment. And that's our goal. That's our goal with every person that walks in the door, is that we want them to leave knowing, damn, I made the right fucking choice to go into that place.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I hear this, I see it a lot in practice, where people come to me, I'm sure, and come to you, and you can see, you can feel that they feel powerless. They're like, I don't know what's going on, this is what I'm told, and I don't know how to fix it, and I'm not sure what to do, and conventional whatever says this and that, and I'm not getting any answers, I'm not getting any relief. And they are very disempowered. And just like you said, it is a matter of saying, okay, we got this. You take your power back. This is what this is about, 100%. Is you taking your power back.
And the cool thing is that, you know, I've seen more medical doctors come through our office recently. And that's an interesting conversation, because a lot of them are just overtly curious. They want to know, like, what the hype's about. Like, they talk to this person, maybe it's a patient of theirs that they had in the office that's suffering under medicine, that said, well, I got myself out of back pain. Well, how'd you do it? I went to a chiropractor and they showed me how to care a little bit better for my spine. And they're like, wonder why I wasn't taught that. I wonder why that information wasn't made available to me. And then they come in, and then we have to start the same process. Did you know that your body heals itself? Did you know that all we have to do is create the right space for your nervous system, brain to body connection to improve, so that, you know, you can get back to feeling the way that you want to live? And so I give those people a ton of credit.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only, like, I think a lot of it, this goes back to our very first part of this conversation, is higher education doesn't always give you all the information you need to make an informed choice. Yeah. It's more so just giving you information that you can regurgitate to somebody later. And as we start to wake up to that fact, we do start to see more medical doctors in, because they're like, you know what? I'm kind of noticing a trend here. I am waking up a little bit. I'm noticing a trend over the last couple of years that, you know, this system isn't designed for people's health. This is designed to keep people sick for as long a period of time as possible, so that we can keep selling the pills that eventually turns into the surgeries and all this other stuff that lines the pockets of somebody that ain't me. Yeah. Because if I tell you that you could spend $1,500 over 6 months and feel fucking amazing, doesn't that sound a lot better than, well, we got to take you through this X-ray or this MRI, or, you know, we got to discuss having this surgery, but beforehand we're going to see how well you respond to this pill.
That's a $20,000 pill.
Easily.
Kind of stuff.
Easily.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is it's just gotten so out of control. And you know, I love this country. I love so much of what we're about, but so many of, especially with our healthcare, has really gotten out of control.
Yep.
But what we are seeing, which is exactly what you're talking about, is this movement. We're seeing the movement toward understanding functional healthcare, right? Functional being functional chiropractic. You know, chiropractic is functional. Functional medicine is understanding the body, the organ systems, how it's all connected, how to feed it, what, you know, the input, right? And understanding and learning how to dig for the root cause. And we have a movement of the conventional moving into the, what is, you know, we call it non-conventional, but it is more traditional.
It's more natural.
Yeah, more natural. National.
Yeah. We need to become more natural on a national basis.
Yes.
And you know, I think the one of the reasons that it has taken the turn that it has is because America is free. There is so much freedom to build any business that you want. Well, it's just turned into, these companies have realized that they can make a shitload of money off of our backs. And so I think it's time for us to take our power back. You know, my wife and I, our goal is to start a regenerative farm.
I love that.
We want to take our own food power back. We want to create a space where people feel comfortable to come to us, knowing that we're giving them organic produce, knowing that we can educate them on maybe how to set up a garden in their own backyard, have you know, 5-6 chickens where they're getting a dozen eggs every couple days. You know, that all that shit is so powerful, but we're told that, no, you can't do that. You live in the city. What are you thinking? Well, okay, then apparently I need to move out of the city. Because, you know, there's certain ordinances and, you know, fees and fines and all this stuff, because there's a reason that there are all those things that are present. Because that gives you too much power, personal sovereign power, and that's not in alignment with the people that expect us to pay them for those things. Like, I don't want to pay $7 for you know, free-range organic eggs at the grocery store. I don't want to fucking do that. You know, I can feed six chickens a day on that. You know, even more than that. You know, and so it's allowing us to, like, show up better in our own lives, show up better for our kids' lives, show up better for our community's lives. You know, and as we start this process of taking our power back, the possibilities are endless of what this country could look like if we all take responsibility, accountability for how we show up, and do it in a powerful way.
Yeah, take accountability for yourself. Don't depend on anybody else. That's the key. It's at least one of the few keys. So I want to introduce you to Sherry Hess. You will love her. She was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I've had her on a couple of times.
Cool.
She is all about taste and regenerative, like taste and nutrient density. Really cool stuff, but also regenerative farming. You'll like it a lot. So,
my wife will love that.
Yeah. So I'll introduce y'all.
Sweet.
Real quick, we're running over just a little bit, but I want everybody to know how to find you, how to ask you questions, how to get in touch with you, and the source, and all of the things.
So an easy way to hit me is on Instagram, at Dr. Zach Jaskinia. So at Dr. Zach Jaskinia. You can email me with the same email at gmail.com, drzachjaskinia@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook, Zach Jaskinia DC. come into the Source Chiropractic, 4346 Alcott Street, Denver, Colorado, 80211, 303-993-5769. We're there. We show up for people every single day in the best possible way that we can, knowing that it's our responsibility to do that, to show up for them, to teach them or reteach them the ability to take their own responsibility, to take their own power back.
For themselves.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. We'll do it again. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So, thank you. You can, of course, find me, tastelifenutrition.com. We're always streaming live here, 10 a.m. Mountain Time on KUHSdenver.com. We are, of course, the Taste Life Nutrition podcast. After that, you can always find us on YouTube and all of the places. Make sure if you want to reach out to me, you can go to the website and fill out an assessment that comes directly to me, and I'll reach out to you and we'll chat a little bit about what you need. Soulful Conception has launched. So Soulful Conception is all about preconception planning, preparing your body to be healthy so you can have that healthy body, healthy pregnancy, and that healthy baby, and have an impact on generations to come. It's huge. This is where you have the power. We have the power as individuals to create a healthier future. And it's a really beautiful thing. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks. We'll see y'all next week. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.
Bye.